The Leominster City Council meeting is funded in part by DeCarolis Insurance Agency at www.decarolisinsuranceagency.com and by Avidia Bank at www.avidiabank.com.
There it is, I'll put it in your thing.
Just throw it over there.
Just make the correction, we'll
Okay.
to, yeah, make it.
Okey-dokey.
I just gave you that.
Yeah, that's
Okay,
That's yours.
this is all of that.
Let me look.
Do you need copies of this? Email to you?
No, I need
No?
copies.
You good?
Okay.
Okay.
As long as I have what I have, I just can throw them away or reuse them.
No, I leave it there. As much as I can.
Hey, Frank.
You can have this second.
They just keep going round and round in circles.
Yeah.
I think they could check.
Everybody staying warm?
Mhm.
That's right. Feels like I was just telling
I can imagine.
There it is.
Yeah, it's all reviewed, I think
There's no map.
we're somewhere like 10 degrees below average, you know, for the temperature this year. I don't know which I dislike worse, the cold or the snow.
We've been pretty fortunate. So,
Got it, I got it.
Oh, geez, yeah, good. Let's see, second reading of ordinance,
Yeah, we should cover.
six. Draft.
Yeah.
But the MBTA zone. Should we get that one?
Huh?
The MBTA zone, I want to get that one.
Right? What was that?
Yeah, let's do it.
The MBTA first reading can come in, right?
Okay.
That's all right, as predicted. Yeah. It's a little more complex than the average.
Elizabeth on vacation or something?
Who vacation?
Elizabeth.
Oh, Mark, Stevie does.
What's that? You can bring up on the agendas.
Yeah. No, 'cause they hadn't heard that from the last old Friday, so I called them. They did today.
So you kicked your flu yet?
Well, I'm feeling a lot of it, but it's like indigestion, so I'll let it take a while. See if just feeling good.
Good.
Just get chip. And you see.
I think you're right, you know, they say, how much can we get for this? They get every penny of it.
But a lot of people I talk to are just struggling.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of respiratory stuff that.
It is, yeah.
Like the Chinese. COVID.
Well, you've heard, you flew in China, right?
No, they come here.
No,
Oh, yeah, oh.
in China, you know, it's still overwhelming the hospitals and everything.
Yeah, and it used to be all shut off. Their ability to come here.
Yeah.
It's gonna get one
Yeah.
rezone.
Where,
Yeah,
look at the
they
trouble.
want it, that's,
Well,
yeah, they
It's on.
called it. And they
We're
were
messing
telling
on the
them
West
what
Coast.
that
Oh, my God.
I saw something tonight that should have been New Year's Eve fireworks started the first fire.
Yeah, 6 days after it's happened. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, right.
Could be any opinion CCP,
That's what
soldiers,
it's on.
military is rendered across the
Yeah,
world.
Yeah, you know that.
it's all kind of
It just,
falling all.
last week I picked up a guy that was a colonel or something. What's that? Mercy. Mercy.
Well,
No,
Oh, yeah, the mercenary group.
I just had it, it took my
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
And he caught him, they identified him, and they released him
that and
in
then,
3 days.
the phone was going off, it was right.
Doesn't make a lot of sense, does it?
That's not one point, right?
Lincoln Terrace.
It's bad enough when you fought, got in the house.
Behind CVS.
Nobody got it.
Yeah, it is.
It's even worse.
You're welcome. That used to be, but since I'm growing from within, you have to shave off.
Wagner group. That's it.
Huh?
The Wagner
Wagner
group.
group, yeah, the Wagner group, that's right.
That's frustrating.
Isn't it? It's one of the strangest things. I I was trying to think of one of the mayor's name the other day.
No, they haven't. They didn't.
Just blanked on it. 5 minutes later, right there it was, yeah.
Yeah, sometimes if you let it go, it
Yeah.
goes.
And the ratings are very.
So,
Okay, it's 6:10. Counselor Angelini, Chairman of Legal Affairs, you ready to commence the hearing on 15-25?
I am, Mr. President. Thank you. Good evening. This is a public hearing of the Legal Affairs Committee. My name is Peter Angelini, Chairman. I'm joined by the other two members of Legal Affairs, Ward 1 Councilor Robert Tossi and Ward 2 Councilor Pauline Cormier. This is petition 15-25. Elizabeth Wood, on behalf of the Planning Board, requests to amend the zoning ordinance pertaining to MU2 zoning. See attached letter. Ms. Wood's kind enough to come on up and have a seat, please. And as you're doing that, let me just read a couple letters to read into the record before we begin. The first one is dated December 17th, 2024. Addressed to Leominster City Council, 25 West Street, Leominster. RECC petition 15-25, petition to City Council for zoning amendment pertaining to the MU2 zoning district. Attention City Council. On the 12/16/24, the Planning Board voted 7-0 to recommend petition 15-25. Petition to City Council for zoning amendment pertaining to MU2 zoning district. I understand this is scheduled for public hearing with the City Council on 1/13/25. I will be in attendance at that meeting to answer any questions the council might have on this matter. Regards, Elizabeth Wood, AICP, Planning and Development Director, on behalf of the Planning Board. We also have a letter. This one is dated January 9th, 2025, from Lascotti Development. It's addressed to Councilor, the copy I have is addressed to Councilor Pauline M. Cormier, City of Leominster, 25 West Street, Leominster, Mass. Dear Councilor Cormier, please accept this letter in my support of City Council petition 15-25, request to amend zoning ordinance pertaining to the MU2 zoning district. Due to an unavoidable travel scheduling conflict, I will be out of town and unable to attend the City Council hearing on January 13, 2025. Through various affiliated entities, I have developed, own, or control substantially all the MU2 zoning district. The proposed zoning change will serve to provide additional much-needed multifamily housing in the City of Leominster while maintaining reasonable density requirements. In addition, the proposed zoning change is necessary to address various internal drafting conflicts within the existing zoning ordinance and will provide clarity moving forward for future development. For the reasons stated above, I reiterate my support for and respectfully request the City Council to approve and adopt petition 15-25, request to amend zoning ordinance pertaining to the MU2 zoning district. Sincerely, Greg Lascotti, President of Lascotti Development Corporation. And with that, I welcome our Planning Director, Elizabeth Wood. And if you'd like to make a little presentation on...
Good evening, Council. Thank you for having me. Is this one?
Yeah, yes, sir.
I think you're well aware of how this came forward, but I'll just give you a brief overview. We're still working on the housing crisis. We're looking on ways to increase housing in Leominster. We're rather limited. But in looking at the MU2 district, this is an opportunity to increase the build out, more building permits per acre without impacting other neighborhoods. If you look at the zoning map and where MU2 is located, it's near the commercial area on Orchard Park. And there's city-owned land buffering this from neighborhoods. There's wetlands that will have to be buffered. when this is built. Plus, if you look at, I know you've read through this, you may have noticed that the planning board has discretion to add a 50-foot buffer between the MU2 zone and the surrounding neighborhoods. There's no longer, when MU2 was created, I believe there was a greater demand for commercial. That's no longer. We have a demand for housing, and this allows for that. Do you want me to walk through the changes, or do you have that? Have you already read them? Do you want to?
We should probably go through them.
Okay.
I think it would be,
So in front of you, you have the petition. I believe it came in October. And one point I forgot to make is this had a lot of thought put into it. The housing committee first looked at it, and they worked closely with the developer or the property owner, the MU2 district, and also the planning board on this. So it wasn't, it's evolved, it's been vetted, and this is the final product from that process, and it comes before you. So at the beginning of the petition, you'll notice number 1, the first change being suggested is to amend the table of uses, replace the entry for apartments, multi-use dwelling under District MU2 to read yes. So I believe that was a no before, now it's going to read yes. And then there's some changes in the dimensional regulations on the dimensional chart in the zoning ordinance. I'm not going to go over all of them, I'll just give you a brief overview. We're not changing the frontage of any of this, except for non-multifamily. It used to be 30, it's now increased to 50 for multifamily dwelling units. So that has increased. And we've reduced some of the side, front, and rear setbacks on some of them, in some instances. But we've retained the height requirement and the number of stories. That's not changing. So that will be the same in this amendment if this is adopted. So moving on from the use chart, there were some sections of the MU2 that were suggested to be eliminated, and those are listed in numbers 4 and 5. And then number 6 gets into buffers. We're going to amend it to say that there's the planning board has discretion to retain 30 feet between uses within the MU2 district at its discretion during site plan approval. Now, during site plan approval, if abutters come forward, they can speak, and the planning board will take that into consideration, and they may retain that 30-foot buffer. If it's not an issue, the board has discretion to make that less. And same for buffers between MU2 districts and adjacent residential zoning districts. In that case, they can have up to a 50-foot buffer, but that can also be reduced at the planning board's discretion. Now, any project, this isn't in your memo here, but I'm just going to point it out, and it was brought to my attention earlier, but I wanted to remind you that any project that is going to have more than 20 acres or more is going to have to come in front of the city council for an informational hearing. That hasn't changed. Now, the city council doesn't have any voting power over that project. It's an informational only, and it'll be at the discretion of the developer to take comments into consideration or not. And then it'll go to the planning board for site plan approval, and it'll go through that whole site plan approval process with landscaping requirements and snow removal and lighting and all of that. I have to say we're quite happy to bring this forward to you. We think it's a good solution as it allows for housing and does not impact adjacent neighborhoods as some of the other proposals that come forward might have done. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
well, another hurdle that has to be met before you can move forward with a multifamily zoning under the MU2 district is that 60% of the non-multifamily must be built or...
Are you talking about section 28.2.1?
Yeah.
Yes.
I believe that is in there. And
It's being deleted.
it's been deleted because that's no longer,
Well, I would assume that that's been met with the shopping
And
center.
we haven't had a mathematical calculation on that, but it has been closely met
Okay.
with the development that has been there.
I would like to, just to see that, the calculations that got us there. I mean, I'm not questioning it, but I think it would be helpful.
Okay.
And I really don't have a big concern about the buffer or the setback, that's discretionary with the planning board when it comes to the portion of the site that may abut the shopping center, but I am concerned, obviously, any residential area may be coming up against, but I did walk the site back in October, and there is a significant wetland system that almost runs that entire boundary in the back, what I would call the rear, so farthest away from the shopping center, which provides a substantial natural buffer. But so you have indeed, the recommendation here is to reduce the buffer that's currently in the book 50 feet to 30 feet. So it's a 20-foot reduction.
Well, if it's between MU2 district and adjacent districts, it's still at 50.
Okay.
This is within the MU2, it's 30 feet, so it's the same property owner
So when we get,
within the district.
so when you get to the residential boundary outside the district, it's 50.
50.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Let me go to see if any other members of Legal Affairs have any questions. Councilor Tossi?
How many? Thank you.
Testing. How many potential units do you think we're going to be increasing this development to? Any ideas?
I can't say we have a build-out analysis. That's something you can do. You can get a build-out analysis. We did not do that. And there's options. They could build townhouses. They could build apartment buildings.
And there's only one way in and one way out, I think. There's only one road that all this is going into, correct? Thank you.
Councilor Cormier?
So by doing this, all the other requirements stay the same. So,
Site plan requirements have not changed.
okay,
And they will have to go to site plan if they have 4 or more units.
okay. And the city retains control over final approval on
Correct.
anything?
Anything
Just-
over 20 acres will come in front of the city council for an informational meeting.
Okay,
Anything that requires site plan will have to go through the site plan process with the planning board and be vetted that way.
okay. And how big, I'm sorry if you've already said it, how big of an area are we talking about right now?
Oh. I can find out for you pretty quickly
Okay,
in my GIS, but I don't have that information right here.
okay.
It's,
Is it more than 20 acres?
yes.
Okay. All right. That's all I have for right now.
All right, and one last question for me. Do we know, can you also find in the GIS the number of acres in the shopping center, the entire shopping center?
I can find that out particularly
All right.
if you,
I mean, I'm
tonight
not,
I can find that out for you.
again, I'm pretty comfortable with, they've met the 60% because it does say that, hold on one second. Yeah, 28.2.1, the multifamily housing component of a mixed-use project may not commence until the non-residential portion of the project is at least 60% complete, taking into consideration buildings previously constructed as part of a mixed-use project. So actually, it's not as stringent as I, okay.
Yeah, do you want me to do that right now? I can find out in 3 minutes, less.
Sure, I guess, but I'm sure other councils are going to have other questions too,
Okay.
so. Would you entertain a recess, Mr. President, so we can get those?
Can get those two
Well,
numbers.
we're not in session now, but
Well, well, perhaps
Why don't we see if the council has questions, and we'll go from there. How's that?
Sounds good. We'll open it up to the council. Councilor Shalfo Zephyr.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you for coming down, Ms. Wood, and explaining all of this. So my question is, how many buildable acres, how many total acres are there? How many are built on currently? What the percentage of retail commercial is existing? And then how many buildable acres are there left? And now, in terms of MU2 districts, this is the one up near the Target or Orchard Hills complex.
Correct.
Are there any other MU2
There are not.
zones? It's just this
Zero.
one? Okay. So this is just a question. So when we established MU2, which is a few years ago, the point was this was industrial land
Yes.
up there. And the move to MU2 was to provide some flexibility so that there was still opportunity for industrial building, commercial building, and residential building, which included multifamily building. So what is this change? The point was to have a mix of things up there. So I understand the need for housing. I understand that completely. What is this change? Why are we eliminating?
We're not eliminating that. If someone wanted to come forward with the commercial, they still could.
Right, but then I'm not sure. Then
just
help me understand what's the objective of this then. If people can still build a combination of residential along with commercial or industrial and whatever in that zone, why are we making this change, or why is it being proposed? I've looked at the changes, I've looked at the proposed language changes, I'm like, okay, so I'm scratching my head thinking, what's this about? What's it really about?
Well, you've done a big thing in the use chart, changing the no to a yes. And then you've increased the build out.
We've changed what from no to yes? The access?
From replacing entry from apartments and multifamily dwelling units. That
Right.
wasn't allowed before, now it's allowed. That enables that.
Well, there was some access to multifamily and residential units. What was it, and why are we changing it to yes now? Why was it no? I don't know where it's no.
I can open it, I have the zoning book right here.
Yeah, I do too. So if you want to refer me to the page, that would be helpful.
Okay, it's gonna be under the table of uses.
MU2 is on page 49.
Yes, but the table of uses on 31,
Okay.
I have that pulled open. So if you're under residential uses, MU1 for housing, if you look under the housing column, under I'm sorry, I misspoke, MU2. It says no for two-family dwellings. It says no for apartments and multifamily. Let's see. It says no for apartments or multifamily dwellings. That changes to a yes. So where it wasn't allowed, it's...
No. It's a special permit planning.
Oh, sorry.
Special permit planning board, right.
I'm sorry, I'm talking and looking at the same time and not
That's
looking.
okay.
Yes, that wouldn't require that special permit anymore. It's gonna be a yes. But site plan approval is still triggered if it's over 4 units.
Why do we want to eliminate the special permit by the planning board? For
That's
apartment
just
and multi?
another barrier for the developer. It's this, we're trying to encourage housing, so we're trying to make it easier.
Okay.
And it still would go through site plan when that's triggered. If it's just 2 units or 1 unit, it wouldn't trigger site plan, but if it's over 4 units, it would trigger it.
Right, so is the proposal also to change the no for detached, single-family dwelling, two-family dwelling, mobile home or trailer park? I mean, is the plan to change
No,
all
we're
of
not
those?
doing mobile home or
those?
trailer park.
Okay.
We're
but
not,
Single-family dwelling, detached, single-family dwelling and two-family dwelling?
Well, the way it was proposed in the petition was just for apartments and multifamily dwelling change,
Just that one line?
just that one line.
Okay. So it's going from a special permit by the planning board to yes. So you're going to eliminate the need for a special permit?
No special permit.
No
needed.
special permit.
So butters would not be notified, it would be just yeah, I would take that out.
Okay, that's good to know.
Special permit requires a butter, you're aware, it
Yep.
requires a butter notification.
Yep, no, that's
Take that
important.
out,
Yep.
that's eliminated.
Okay, thank you. That's it for now.
Any Councilor David Cormier.
Yes, I just have a question about the 20-acre thing that we were talking about. Just coming to the city council for informational meeting, right?
Yes, informational meeting, so that would notify the public,
Right,
the council,
and have us an opportunity to weigh in.
yes.
I just looked at the GIS quickly on my
Oh,
phone.
thank you.
It looks like, so don't take, I might have missed some, but just at a quick glance, there's like 1, 2, 3, like at least 6 parcels that I found. 12.45 acres, 11.27 acres, 17.95 acres, 13.64 acres, 9.84 acres, and 4 acres. So it's not one big parcel of land legally. So none of these would trigger over 20 acres or more.
Well, Mr. Liscotti isn't here, so I don't want to envision what he might bring forward.
Right.
But if he owns all of that, so the project might be bigger.
Right, and that's what I was
I
wondering.
think he's envisioning bigger than,
Would you combine all those lots because the way they're broken out, not one of these lots is over 20 acres?
that would be a question for the developer.
Okay. All right.
And the 20-acre trigger just triggers a public hearing. It had really, we have no impact on it. I mean, we can say what we think.
Informational only.
Informational
And
only,
that
so
has
it's
not
irrelevant,
changed.
Yeah,
really.
well.
It's
Right.
been in there
Yeah.
since it was changed before, is that process.
Right. Thank you.
Councilor Cormier, I'm sorry. If I may, in 28.2.2, says a site on which mixed-use project is undertaken may be made up of parcels in separate ownership, but are considered as a single lot for the purposes of all uses, dimensional, open space, landscaping design requirements of this ordinance, including yards, setbacks, excuse me, buffers, the number and design of parking spaces and areas, location or design of driveways or interior drives, and location and quantity of open space. So they're taken, obviously, they're taken into account for the MU2 district, in combination of parcels.
The whole district, okay.
Correct.
Gotcha.
And even separate owners, but in this case,
Same owner.
same owner, so.
Okay.
Any other members of the council wish to pose questions to Ms. Wood? Okay, let me see if there's anyone in the public. Is there anyone in attendance this evening that would like to speak in favor of, in opposition to, or has questions regarding petition 15-25? For the second time, is there anyone in attendance this evening who would like to speak either in favor of or in opposition to petition 15-25? And for the third and final time, is there anyone in attendance this evening that would like to speak either in favor of or in opposition to petition 15-25? All right, seeing none. Mr. President, I think I'm going to have to keep this hearing open. We have some questions that are unanswered, so
Yeah, I looked on the GIS map as well. I believe the land in question, that is MU2, comprises 17.95 acres of land on the backside.
that's the entire,
Well, the parcel that's not developed. That's, to be more accurate, much of it's developed by the Orchard Hill Park But the undeveloped portion, that big lot in the back there of where Target Dick's would be, that's all, that lot's 17.95 acres.
All right, so the developable portion of that lot would be even less because it's encumbered by a significant wetland.
Correct.
So, that's helpful. What do we have left? What other question?
Well, I think some of the questions were answered by the council. I appreciate that. You had a question, one question was how many buildable acres are left, and you looked at the parcel, but I don't think with this, without a survey, we would know how many acres if you subtract the wetlands out. But I can see if we can do an overlay and try to do a, our funding with MRPC is no longer, we ran out at the end of the year, and they have the GIS staff that can do that. I can ask them if as a courtesy they would do it. Or I can create a map on our GIS with the wetlands overlaid, and you can visualize it, but I don't know if it'll do the math.
The key provision here, I think, just for clarity, is that we're dropping we're increasing the density from 3,500 square foot per unit to 2,000 square feet per unit. But there are other limitations, whether it be buffers, wetlands, the number of stories isn't changing, obviously road surface and parking, all of that. So I guess the idea, correct me if I'm wrong, from the Housing Committee's point of view was to, I mean, substantially, this could be developed tomorrow, but what we're seeking to do here is provide a little bit more density for this project.
More build out.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. All right. And it is in the spirit, obviously, of, sorry.
Yeah.
Councilor Shalfo-Zephyr, go ahead.
Thank you. And then also, not only are the minimum lot area square footage requirements changing or proposed to be changed for multifamily dwellings, I don't know, from, what was it, to 2,000 a unit, 3,500 feet maybe? 3,500 by right, and then 2,500 per unit by special permit, but the special permit's going away. So it's reducing the minimum lot area, square feet, to 2,000, but then it's doubling the minimum lot area square feet requirement for industrial from 5,000 to 10,000 square feet. So it's reducing the residential requirement, and it's doubling the size of the industrial requirement. That's a pretty significant change, it seems like to me.
You're right. I meant to point that out, but I appreciate you finding that for me.
Yep.
All right. Well, again, the purpose of the MU2 district, according to our zoning ordinance book, is to provide for the coordinated and mixed development of institutional, multifamily residential, business, or industrial uses. So obviously, the MU2 is, I would say, the most appealing zoning if you are a developer. And this being the last MU2 zone in the city, I guess what the planning board is recommending isn't a significant overreach. I mean, the discretion of the planning board is limited because the 50-foot setback is a requirement once you,
It's discretionary
well, unless you,
to the board.
within that mixed-use zone, right?
30 feet within the zone, 50 feet between non-MU2 zones and the MU2 zone.
All right, I'm good now.
Can I just add, because I was part of the zoning committee that created this, This is the only MU2 zone in the city, which I think has been mentioned, but, you know, we have to remember, this started with a blank page. There was nothing constructed when this was zoned MU2. Well, I'm not sure about that, but the idea is that there was going to be future development, and a lot of that development occurred afterward, and none of it was housing. So the idea was to give the flexibility in the MU2 for industrial, commercial, and housing.
Correct.
And it was always anticipated, even within that zoning committee, that there would be housing ultimately. And that's why initially it required some of the commercial and industrial to be built out before the housing was built out. And that has, in fact, at least some of it has happened.
Correct.
A lot of it has happened, actually.
All right, are there any other questions? All right, in that case, I'm comfortable now with with the answers I've received. So I'm going to close this public hearing, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Thank you.
And what time do we have? We have some time left, so we can start the 6:30 hearing. Mr. Chairman?
Okay. This is a public hearing of the Legal Affairs Committee, petition 23-25. Union Square Realty Trust, James Exaris, trustee, 507 Lancaster Street, Leominster, Mass. Requests that the City Council amend the current zoning of 493, 497, 501, and 507 Lancaster Street from MU1 to Business B. Before I get too deep into this, let me read a couple of letters that we have, one from the planning board and one from an abutter. This letter is dated January 7, 2025, to Elizabeth Dorian, City Clerk, 25 West Street, Leominster, Mass. RE City Council Petition 23-25, Union Square Realty Trust, James Exaris, trustee, 507 Lancaster Street, Leominster, Mass. Requests that the City Council amend the current zoning of 493, 497, 501, and 507 Lancaster Street from MU1 to Business B. Attention, Mrs. Dorian. On 1/7/25, the Planning Board voted 6-0 to recommend, it says recommended, but obviously it should be recommend, City Council Petition 23-25, Union Square Realty Trust, James Exaris, trustee, 507 Lancaster Street, Leominster, Mass. Request that the City Council amend the current zoning of 493, 497, 501, and 507 Lancaster Street from MU1 to Business B. Please let me know if you have any questions or if you need additional information. Regards, Elizabeth Wood, AICP, Planning and Development Director, on behalf of the Planning Board. And I have a letter from an abutter, actually an email that came in around 5 o'clock this afternoon. I asked our assistant clerk to distribute it to the council. It says, it's dated 1/13/2025. Dear Peter, apologies for the lateness of this message. Hope it finds you well and in time for necessary proceedings. Please know both Bobby Cornetta and myself, Michelle Linder, wish to make it known that we fully support the zoning change to become Business B at the property across the street from us at Miranda's Pub on Lancaster Street here in Leominster. Thank you for the opportunity to share our support in favor. Anything else we can do, please don't hesitate to ask. Sincerely yours, Michelle Linder, Robert Canetta, owners, Miranda's Pub, 488 Lancaster Street, Leominster, Mass. 01453. Before, I really don't have any questions. I actually was fortunate enough to sort of get a description of how this whole issue has arisen. I was at a zoning board of appeals meeting on a different matter, and the applicant was there pleading his case to the zoning board. But let me go to my colleagues on legal affairs. Councilor Robert Tossi, do you have any questions?
Not at this time, no.
Councilor Pauline Cormier. Members of the council. Councilor Shalfo Zephyr.
Is anybody here to speak about the project?
I'm sorry.
I'm just curious, is anybody here to speak about the project?
Mr. Exares is here.
Come on forward.
That would be helpful.
Step up to the
I didn't
table.
recognize him.
Just make sure your mic is
Thank you.
on there,
Oh, is your-
Jim.
Tap it,
James Exares. Is it on?
tap it.
There you go.
Is it on?
So James
I think
Exares.
you turned it off.
I turned it off.
I think so. No,
On, off?
no. Is there a red, there should be a button and it will light up red. Is it red?
No, not yet. There we go. Now we're on. Okay.
It sounds like it's on.
Yeah, so James Exares, 66 Independence Drive, Leominster, Mass.
Yeah.
And I own the facility located on Lancaster Street.
Yeah. So my question, I guess, is just in looking at, right now it's zoned MU1, and then you want to change it to business B, right? Is that it? Yeah. Yes, business B. In looking at MU1 and looking at business B, I mean, they seem pretty comparable. I mean, MU1 talks about the readaptive use of, old manufacturing buildings for a variety of different things. So if you could just describe what you're thinking of in going to a business B
So the
zone.
major differences between Business B and MU1 are the industrial and warehousing components.
Okay,
In Business B, you would not be afforded manufacturing or warehousing that you would under MU1. And you would be afforded a few other things that you would not be afforded under MU1, drive-throughs, and it's more user-friendly for those types of buildings. So the buildings that we're describing in the application are two-story brick buildings. They're multi-story. They have single-phase power, not three-phase power. So manufacturing historically likes three-phase power to run the equipment, and they like ground-level property with loading docks. You can't really warehouse on the second floor of a brick building that doesn't have hoistways or facilities to bring products up the stairs.
Yep.
So when I bought this property back in 2004, I bought the first piece from Jimmy Cavioli. In 2007, I bought the second piece at an auction because the building had failed. It was completely vacant. We pumped about $6 million into the property, and we currently have 47 businesses that reside on that property. It's 285,000 square feet of real estate. It's a big complex. And what we're finding is all of our first floor tenants are exceptional and long-term. Our second floor tenants completely revolve. Every 6 months to a year, we lose our second floor tenants, and we have to reapply and find new tenants because they can't be successful in their business under the current zoning with a second floor facility. This, according to our marketing people, is what they need to better accommodate the demand for that second floor space. It gives them more flexibility, and they've requested that we ask to be rezoned to Business B. Now, coincidentally, I can give these up to the board, but every multi-story structure around us is zoned Business B. We are the only multi-story structure that is zoned MU1 in that area. So every single building that surrounds us, even Miranda's Pub across the street, who was nice enough, which I didn't know, to send a wonderful letter, which I do appreciate. They even have a second floor where they have, I think, apartments above the bar. And then every other multi-story building does have Business B uses. It's very difficult to accommodate those tenants in the MU1 zoning. And that's probably the easiest way I can explain it.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Exares, when I go back to what, and I don't recall verbatim, but that zoning board of appeals meeting where I happened to run into you there, and you explained, I thought quite eloquently, how there was really no way for you to rectify this through any other means but the zoning change.
The zoning change would be the easiest way to accommodate a solution to the second floor occupancies. First floors are occupied. They've always been occupied. They never change. I've had the same tenants for a very long time. And they stay in that first floor, and they're successful. And like I said, we have 47 tenants. When I bought the building, it was completely vacant. In 2007, there was no one in the building. It was 100% vacant. As a matter of fact, the back of the building was full of rubbish floor to ceiling because apparently Union Products ran out of money for dumpsters a couple of years prior. It didn't tell anybody. It just kept stuck in the rubbish in the back warehouse.
That's some warehousing.
Yeah, and now I understand why it was a sight unseen auction. So we've invested a substantial amount of money. We've been very successful. This project is a success, not a failure. and we are very happy because it generates tremendous revenue, and we have great tenants. The latest tenant, Luca's Restaurant, is just a breath of fresh air. We love the place. I mean, it's phenomenal. But it creates, to own that property, you have to be creative with your occupancies because parking is limited. Like years ago, in these manufacturing buildings, not everybody had a car. A lot of people walk to work. Now today, you have 285,000 square feet of building, and you only have 195 parking spaces. So you got to make sure that your business is, like Lucas is closed on Sundays, so and then that the parking is open. So it's great to have a facility that primary business occupies Sundays and Mondays, and they share the parking and don't overlap. So those are the challenges that you have managing that property. The second floor spaces are a challenge because they're on the second floor. Plus we have the parking challenge, and it's just difficult to keep like warehousing people in that kind of an environment. And the warehouse is wonderful because it doesn't use parking, right? It's a big, huge warehouse with 3 or 4 parking spaces. That's your greatest tenant in that type of situation. You can't do that on the second floor. It just isn't available.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other members of the council? Council?
So, Mr. Exares, can you give us an idea of how this is going to change, how it's going to change your tenancy, what you can now market to for that second floor?
Well, there's multiple things that you can market. It has an accommodation for up to 4 tenants for residential use. It has some other amenities that you can use under Business B that you can't use under MU1. And the marketing people, which I'm not involved in the marketing side of it, that's more a different division of the company. The marketing people claim that this is what they need to help facilitate the applications that they get for occupancy. Now, we recently had an applicant come in and rent. We have a recruiting center going in there on the first floor, and that's a great occupancy. It's a National Guard recruiting center is coming there. They move in February 1st. And that's a great thing to have in that facility. They have high traffic, high visibility. They're taking 3,000 square feet of one of the smaller buildings up on the street level. But again, they have to be first floor, handicap accessible, and they can't go on the second floor. So those type of tenants we're already able to accommodate. It's the second floor tenants that we don't have the ability to accommodate. And right now we're renting to office space. It's all completely office space. The manufacturing people that are on the downstairs level have their offices up on the second floor. But office demand is changing. There's not a big demand for it anymore. People are working from home, and that square footage is not getting utilized the way it was 8 or 10 years ago. So we need to do something to make that second floor more appealing to potential tenants. And my marketing division claims this is the best solution that's available to us.
Fair enough. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Are there any other members of the council?
Claire.
Oh, Councilor Frida?
I just wanted to mention that Mr. Exares and I had a nice conversation about the property, and I totally agree with him. The second floor now is completely different than it might have been 20 years ago. Manufacturing and warehousing isn't going to go on a second level in those buildings. I think that was the issue when Mr. Boucher came before us for the other building. And we can't allow zoning to interfere with something that doesn't make sense. So, it was easy to understand when Mr. Exares explained the situation, and I don't have any kind of an issue with the proposal.
Thank you, Councilor. And one last time, are there any other councilors? Councilor Arger.
Thank you. Mr. Exares, you said your marketing people have recommendations to change this because they can market the property better.
Yes.
What would they be marketing the property as?
Well, they claim it's a more flexible marketing ability. There are uses for the second floor space in Business B that are easier to utilize than there would be under MU1.
Do you have any examples of that?
Well, obviously, residential apartments in 4 of the units would be obvious. That's obvious, but not all of the units. But there are other items that they claim are more amenable to what Business B and the requirements and the requests are from what they get for potential occupants.
So would you expect that a large portion of this would become residential?
4 units per building is the maximum. It
The
can be.
maximum, okay.
Maximum. So we don't expect that a large portion of that would be
Okay.
residential. But certainly a component of it would be.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Councilor Archer. And one last time, anybody on the council? All right, everyone looks satisfied. Let me go to the public. Is there anyone in attendance this evening that would like to speak in favor of or in opposition to petition 23-25?
Just an interesting neighbor.
Oh.
I'm across the street from where he wants to do the work, so I have no issue.
Okay, thank you, sir. For the second time, is there anyone in attendance this evening that would like to speak either in favor of or in opposition to petition 23-25? And for the third and final time, is there anyone in attendance this evening that would like to speak either in favor of or in opposition to petition 23-25? Seeing none, Mr. President, I will declare this public hearing closed as well.
Very well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, thank you, Mr. Exares.
Thank you, Council.
I handicapped that a little wrong. Usually we go over or under, so in 5 minutes, we'll start the regular meeting. Oh, sorry. Very good, thank you. We'll now conduct the public forum, which is an opportunity for any member of the audience to speak on a matter specifically listed on the council agenda. Speakers will be asked to come to the microphone and state their formal name and address, along with identifying the specific items they wish to address. Each speaker is respectfully asked to keep their comments within a 2-minute time frame. The council will not be responding or answering any questions. However, at the discretion of the council president, clarification may be given. I'm going to guess we have no one signed up, and we have no one left in the audience, so we're back to waiting. I will declare that public forum closed. Pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'll now take a roll call of the councils in attendance, starting with Councilor David Cormier.
Present.
Councilor Pauline Cormier.
Present.
Councilor Arndinger.
Present.
Councilor Angelini.
Present.
Councilor Tossi.
Present.
Councilor Shalfo Zephyr.
Present.
Councilor Robbins.
Present.
Councilor Frida.
Present.
I record myself as present. All 9 councilors are in attendance. Moving on to approval of the records. Is the chairwoman ready to report?
I am, Mr. President, and I would ask, I don't think we have to approve these each individually.
Okay, you can do them in a block.
Unblock, please. I know that there's some corrections, there's some typographical errors, a few corrections that are still outstanding, but I'm going to ask that the minutes be approved, that they be placed on record pending a few of the changes that need to be made, and I will follow up with the clerk when she's back in just to make sure that's done.
Okay. That may be done unless there's an objection. Councilor Frida.
When you're talking about corrections, are we talking about correcting a lot of the names that are misspelled in these minutes? And a lot of the, there were a lot of comments that aren't quite right. They change because there's some words that are missing. You know, for example, the organizational meeting, at the very end, it says that Councilor Bedanza said that the committees will change. I think it said they will not change.
Right, and we've pointed those out, we've made those corrections, so there are those same
But there are a lot
corrections that are...
of, this whole group of them, there's mistakes in just about every packet.
And this is
Misspelling.
pending the corrections to those mistakes.
I'm sorry?
It's pending the corrections to those mistakes. That's why I've asked that they be improved, pending those corrections. So when the clerk is back and feeling a little bit better, I will have her make those corrections. So pending those corrections, I'm asking that
Can we
they be
get those after they're corrected?
I will ask her to email them or make a copy available to anybody that wants to have them.
Are you all set, Councilor? Okay, so they may be placed on file. Starting with communications from the mayor, C-28. Dean J. Mazzarella, mayor, requested an appropriation of $25,000 be made to the city clerk postage account. The same amount to be transferred from the stabilization fund. C-28 is referred to the chairman of finance.
First time on the calendar, regular course.
Very well. C-28 has been given regular course. C-29. Dean J. Mazzarella, mayor, requests that the appropriation of $73,165 be made to the police department equipment expense account, the same to be transferred from the stabilization fund. C-29 is referred to the chairman of finance.
Regular course.
Very well. C-29 has been given regular course. Moving on to appointments. C-30, Dean J. Mazzarella, mayor, requests the city council vote to remove Ray Racine from the school building committee for the Fallbrook Elementary School and approve Jake Fleming to the membership of the school building committee for Fallbrook Elementary School. C-30 is referred to the chairwoman of Ways and Means.
Thank you, Mr. President. Regular course, please.
Very well. C-30 has been given regular course. Moving on to C-31, Dean J. Mazzarella, mayor, requested the appropriation of $6,250 be made to the building department building and grounds expense account, the same amount to be transferred from the stabilization fund due to an unexpected note heat related expense at the old police station. C-31 is referred to the chairman of finance.
First time on the calendar, regular course.
Very well. C-31 has been given regular course. Moving on to petitions, first time on the agenda. 24-25, Thomas M. Bovenzi, Esquire, on behalf of Steve Boucher, requests to amend the zoning district map for parcel 352-6 such that the entire parcel will be zoned Residence B, since a portion is currently zoned industrial. 24-25 is referred to the chairman of legal affairs.
Thank you, Mr. President. First time on the calendar, regular course with referrals to the planning board and the building commissioner, please.
Very well. Oh, yeah. And we're going to recommend that we establish a public hearing on January 27th I think that's the only one we have. We have nothing scheduled, right? Let's schedule that, if it's okay with you, Mr. Chairman, for, let's say, 6:30?
On January 27th?
Yes.
That's fine.
All right, so the recommendation is regular course referrals to planning board, building inspector, and a public hearing scheduled for January 27th at 6:30 PM. All in favor, please recognize usual manner. Anyone opposed? That may be done by a vote of 9-0. Moving on to matters before the city council, is the chairman of finance ready to report?
Yes, Mr. President. The opioid stabilization fund, we started on July 1st, 2024, with a balance of $518,703.20. We've gotten some proceeds from the state in the amount of $172,743.90. And back in November, we spent $68,000 for a clinician. So that leaves us with a balance in that fund of $623,447.10. The capital stabilization fund, we began on July 1, 2024. We've spent nothing, so we began and still have a balance of $2,193,191.62. And the City of Leominster's Stabilization Fund, we began July 1, 2024 with a balance of $22,927,553.81. We've earned interest in the amount of $297,525.91. Pending the couple of items, the few items that are on there for tonight, we will have spent $862,862.45, which will leave us a total balance in the stabilization fund of $22,362,217.27. And that is the financial report.
Any questions? Councilor Frida.
Do we have any idea if there's a plan for some of that opioid fund? That was meant to be helping people with.
Right. I will ask again. I know that when I asked last time, the clinician thing was coming, but I haven't seen any more. They told me, oh, there's some things coming. I haven't seen any more, but I can ask again if there's anything else on the horizon for that. Absolutely.
All set, Councilor? Okay, anyone else? All right. Moving on to legal affairs. Is the chairman ready to report?
I am, Mr. President. Thank you. This is petition 15-25, Elizabeth Wood, excuse me, on behalf of the Planning Board, request to amend the zoning ordinance pertaining to MU2 zoning. We had a public hearing earlier this evening. Ms. Wood, our Planning and Development Director, was here to answer our questions. This is something that received a unanimous recommendation from the Planning Board as well. So it would be my recommendation, Mr. President, that we adopt this petition, and I would ask you to poll members of my committee.
Very well. Councilor Robert Tossi?
I agree.
Hey, Councilor Cormier, Pauline Cormier.
I agree with the yes, I agree. Thank you.
Okay. You've heard the unanimous recommendation of the Legal Affairs Committee to grant 15-25. Is there any discussion? Councilor Shalfo Zephyr.
Yeah, thank you very much. Through the chair of the Finance Chair. I don't know if you would entertain further time. I think that there are some important questions that we didn't get answered tonight. First of all, there's no build-out analysis done. We don't know the number of acres that could potentially be developed and what that means in terms of number of new residences. We don't know what the impact will be on traffic in that area. I go to Target all the time, and I can attest to that intersection and that road, going into that area is always being heavily traveled. So I think that there are a number of things that I would want to know, because we don't know the scope, we don't know the impact. We have, is it 50 units? Is it 150 units? Is it, I mean, I have no idea.
Well,
So-
I don't think any of us do, and obviously, those are issues that the planning board has jurisdiction over and will be taken up as the process plays out, as all these development projects do. This one being well-defined as the last MU2 project in the city. So I really don't have any problem with approving these minor changes, in my opinion, to the MU2 zoning. And the other issues, that traffic and the like, is something that's out of the city council's purview, quite frankly. So
Well, it's always a consideration whenever we're talking about adding homes, especially, I think, in Ward 1. I mean, that's what we hear all the time, and I think it's a legitimate, concern that lots of councilors raise, myself included, as an at-large councilor. So not knowing the scope or what the potential impact could be, I don't have any problems with the changes. I just want to know what they mean, or what they mean potentially. So that's why I would want to know, what are the buildable acres left? What does the developer think in terms of, what would a complete build-out be? What would something maybe in the middle be?
once again, we're not entitled really to see a build-out analysis. That's something that the planning board gets before they approve this project. I mean, we're being asked to modify the zoning that's in place. We're not, it's not, again, I don't think I've ever been here when we want to know a raw piece of land what the ultimate build-out's going to be, because those are all things that aren't hashed out down here. They're hashed out in the planning board process. And we all have an opportunity to weigh in on that. Those are public hearings as well.
Mm-hmm. No, I understand that, but before, I take a vote to change something, I want to know what the impact of that change is going to be, so that I can answer questions from my constituents, so I can understand what they are myself. So, my position is, we are, changing the zoning, making some modifications to the MU2 zone, which I was around for, too, and all of that was, hashed out 10 or 12 years ago, whenever that was. So, the change seems reasonable. I just have questions. What does it mean? How many acres? And is it, how will that impact the vote that we took recently on the MBTA housing that we just had to vote on?
Well, again, that's,
Yeah.
I just think we're trying to compare apples to pineapples.
Well, I just want the information so I can make an informed vote.
I'm going to stick to my original recommendation. Councilor Cormier?
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I don't know that at this point we closed the public hearing, so I don't think we could accept really much new evidence and testimony anyway, even if we gave this further time. But, I will just say, I think from what I gathered tonight, not much is changing other than the fact that they just want to address the housing crisis a little bit and make the MU2 zone a little bit more dense with whatever they put in there for residential, because obviously we're not changing a lot of the spirit and the meaning of what the MU2 zone was. It's just going to allow for a little bit more density in the housing component. And I know that, when you go down, for example, to Shrewsbury, I think it's in the White City area. There's a Whole Foods and all kinds of buildings where, maybe 4 stories for residential. This is a new thing that create kind of like a little district with, shopping, housing, a little bit of everything right near a highway, in and out. Get right on the highway, go to work, come right off the highway, go home. And I think that road will accommodate that. So I think, the concept is not changing. Maybe you're going to add, I don't know how many units, but the whole concept of what's going to be there is going to be the same, with just a tad bit more density is how I see it. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Cormier. Anybody else? I'm going to get to you, but just in case anybody else who wants to speak that hasn't spoken. Okay, Councilor Robbins?
Yeah, I think I'll just add, as everybody on this council knows, the housing crisis is real, and I see it every single day in my job. So I think that this is relatively low-hanging fruit to kind of help address that. But I do think as well, and this is kind of where I'm a little conflicted, when this does get developed, and people are calling us and then saying, why are there so much traffic in the target area? We're gonna all have to answer those calls. So, you know, I think that addressing the housing crisis is critical, and why I'm leaning towards being supportive of this tonight, but it would be helpful to at least have some idea of what this area is going to look like moving forward with a change.
Councilor Shalfo-Zephyr, I know you
Yep.
had your hand up.
Yeah, thank you very much. You know, one other really important point I think that I want to make sure that people understand is that, you know, this change eliminates the need for any kind of a butter notification. So if there is a 50-unit building going up 4 stories high, or a 100-unit or a 20-unit building going up, anybody in close proximity to that under the current zoning ordinance would get a notification. They won't under this, because there's no, that is being eliminated, which Ms. Woods attested to, Ms. Wood, excuse me. So I have a few questions. I think that there's still, I'm a complete supporter of housing, complete and total. But I think, you know, I think that there's just some missing information here. And again, MU 1 and 2, you know, both were designed to accommodate a variety of things. Housing, commercial, industrial, residential, all of those things, multifamily, whatever. So I don't have a problem with that. I think it's a good thing. I do have questions about it. I want to know what the impact, what the scope, what the size might be. Maybe it's 50 units, and that's a drop in the bucket, you know, to add traffic up to that area. You know, if it's 100 units or something like that more, well, you know, that's something I think that we should at least know about, know what we're voting on. So that's my position. I think I have questions and would like the information.
Well, it'd be my position that the developer under the ordinance isn't required to show anybody a build-out analysis, especially when they're just looking for modifications to the existing zoning. The planning board is the arbiter there. They voted unanimously to recommend that we adopt this for various reasons. And therefore, like I said, if we adopt this, and it passes, and they go up to the planning board 6 months or a year from now, and it's something that I don't like, I'll be sure to speak up at the planning board and insist that perhaps the planning board should take measures or issue some limitations on the project, right? That will address those concerns. But again, from our perspective as a city council, I don't think that's our place really to sort of micromanage. That's the planning board's job. The traffic, the number of units, that's all something that they do. And that's why generally, you know, those matters held up there. The subdivision regulations, all the developments handled up there in Route 10.
They do all of that after we make the decision about the law, about what the law is going to be and what the zoning is going to be. So the planning board, you know, when things start getting developed and abutters are annoyed because they haven't been notified, they don't know what's going on. When they see construction traffic, when they see additional traffic, once these units or homes or whatever are being occupied, they're not going to, constituents are not going to call the planning board. They're going to call me. They're going to call you, or they're going to call Councilor Tossi.
You know the abutters were notified of this hearing tonight?
Yeah.
Who showed up? Who's out there? We want to continue it for another empty audience? I mean, I just think we should move these things along. I mean, we could micromanage everything that comes down here. I don't think it's helpful in the long run. I mean, I've heard over and over again, people, you know, we need more housing, we need more housing. This is a component of the MU2, the last MU2 in the city. I wasn't around when this was zoned MU2, but certainly if you read the purpose of the of MU2 zone, it's clearly to promote multifamily residential. Certainly the business component of this has been already addressed with the mall. So that was done first. This multifamily component has been vacant for at least 10 years. So this shouldn't be a shock to anybody that this area is going to be developed with apartments. So in my opinion, the modifications to the zoning that the planning board is recommending we adopt are minor. And the issues that you raise are issues that are generally, if not always, addressed during the planning board process.
But that's after the fact, and this
Yeah, everything's, everything.
It's after the fact. So the protection for butters to be notified when something's going on is removed with this change. So, you can characterize it as, micromanaging, or it's not a big deal. I'm fully supportive of housing. I think it's a great idea to build housing up there. I think it'll be a nice location. All I want to know is what's the scope, what is the potential impact both on existing traffic and the people, who are utilizing that area now. I think they're reasonable questions, and I really don't. I think it's a problem that abutters won't be notified when this stuff is happening.
They may be reasonable questions, but they're not here. It doesn't, so it doesn't give us like the right, we can't do the planning board's job. And I
No,
think
we have to do our job.
I think we often have mission creep here, where we're getting National Grid send up petitions where we talk about trees for weeks. It's not our job. Our job tonight, is to amend the MU2 zoning per the request of the planning board, and that's what I'm trying to do. And I'm going to stick by my recommendation. And those who want to support it can. Those who want to vote against it may. And so that's, as far as I'm concerned, that's where we're at.
All right, so, Councilor Frida?
First of all, I support this project. I support the housing element, but I do disagree with the fact that us looking at the zoning and making sure that we think it's the right thing to do is not micromanaging. Our job down here is to oversee zoning. We're not micromanaging when we ask questions about the zoning. I think we're responsible for the zoning. There are things that the planning board does after, but zoning issues belong to the city council. That's a major function of our council. Again, I support it. I understand that the two councilors to my right have questions about it. And that's up to the chair whether he wants to grant further time. I support this project, but I do not want it to appear that we are even suggesting that looking at zoning and proper zoning for the city when it comes before us is micromanaging anything. It's not micromanaging. It's zoning issues, and those are our responsibility.
Thank you, Councilor. I don't want to be misunderstood. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying
Go ahead,
is,
Councilor. I'm sorry.
Go ahead. When it comes to issues such as build-out, the developers aren't required to give us build. They can tell us, we don't know what the build-out is right now. We haven't done the engineering. So that comes after. We either support this or we oppose it, and then the planning board asks the developer for the build-out scenario. They get to show what the plan is, and that's how it always works as long as I've been aware. And of course, like I said, you want to debate the changes that the planning board is asking for, that's fine, that's what we're here for. But as far as, what I'm trying to say is, when you ask for a build-out, you're asking to see an engineered plan showing the final design and layout of whatever's being proposed there for the housing. And again, that's something I think the planning board is better suited to do, and it falls within their purview, not ours. I agree with the at-large councilor. The zoning is obviously something that's very important that we do down here. So that's what I'm looking at. The setback, the buffer zone, and the square footage down at 2,000 square feet. Those are things. If we have questions about that, fine.
That's what the planning board looks at, the setbacks.
Right, but that's what they're asking us to modify.
All right, so look at procedurally, we have an unanimous recommendation from the Legal Affairs Committee. We've closed the public hearing. Unless there's something new, I think we're at the point where we need to take a vote. Anything new? Okay, this will be by roll call, starting with Councilor David Cormier.
Yay.
Councilor Pauline Cormier.
Yay.
Councilor Ardinger.
Yay.
Councilor Angelini.
Yay.
Councilor Tossi.
Yay.
Councilor Shalfo Zephyr.
Nay.
Councilor Robbins.
Yay.
Councilor Frida.
Yay.
Now it'll be recorded as yay. 15-25 passes by a vote of 8-1. Moving on to 23-25. Is the chairman ready to report?
I am, Mr. President. Thank you. 23-25 is Union Square Realty Trust, James Exaris trustee, 507 Lancaster Street, Leominster, Mass. Request that the City Council amend the current zoning of 493, 497, 501, and 507 Lancaster Street from MU1 to Business B. And once again, we held a public hearing here this evening. We heard from the applicant. And I think the applicant made a sound argument why this change has merit, and therefore I will be, my recommendation will be to grant 23-25, and I would ask you to poll members of my committee.
Very well. Councilor Tossi?
I agree.
Councilor Pauline Cormier?
I agree.
You've heard the unanimous recommendation of the Legal Affairs Committee to grant 23-25. Is there any further discussion? Councilor David Cormier?
Yeah, just very briefly, I just want to say that, you know, obviously, I wholeheartedly support this. You know, the investment we heard tonight that was made in there, I think so far $6 million. And, you know, I could only imagine if that investment wasn't made, how dark and dank those old buildings would be down there. So it is great that, you know, somebody had an idea years ago and made the investment, took the risk, made the investment, and certainly, you know, to further that, the zoning that they're proposing here makes total sense. So I fully support it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Cormier. Anybody else? Councilor Frida?
I think it's an example of how zoning, we have to look at zoning down here as times change and conditions change. We changed the zoning for that whole area back, I forget how many years ago now. And it doesn't satisfy the requirements anymore. So that's the ability for someone to come back and say, look, this doesn't work anymore. We need to change it. And I think that's what we need to look at when we look at some of these zoning issues.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Frida. Anyone else? Okay, seeing none, this will be by roll call as well, starting with Councilor David Cormier.
Yay.
Councilor Pauline Cormier.
Yay.
Councilor Arndinger.
Yay.
Councilor Angelini.
Yay.
Councilor Tossi.
Yay.
Councilor Shalfo Zephyr.
Yay.
Councilor Robbins.
Yay.
Councilor Frida.
Yay.
And I shall be recorded as yay. 23-25 is granted by a vote of 9-0. Moving on to, we have nothing under Ways and Means. Moving on to new business, and I think, Councilor Angelini, you're going to tell me we don't have an ordinance back yet, right?
That's correct. KP Law has not presented us with an ordinance form, so I'm going to be requesting further time.
I'll check with Councilor Tossi.
I agree.
Councilor Pauline Cormier.
I agree.
So the recommendation is for further time. All those in favor of further time, please recognize in the usual manner. Anyone opposed, by a vote of 9-0. 16-25 is given further time. Moving on to old business. Are you ready for the second reading of 17-25?
I am, Mr. President. Thank you. This is second reading of an ordinance, formally petition 17-25. The City of Leominster in the year 2024, an ordinance be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Leominster as follows. Amending Chapter 13 of the revised ordinances entitled Motor Vehicles and Traffic. Chapter 13, Section 13-44 of the revised ordinances entitled Same between 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. is hereby amended by deleting the following text. Lancaster Street, north side, from in front of 488 Lancaster Street to and including the front of 508 Lancaster Street. Mr. President, it would be my recommendation that we adopt the second reading of this ordinance, and I would ask you to poll members of my committee.
Councilor Tossi.
I agree.
Councilor Pauline Cormier.
I agree.
You've heard the unanimous recommendation of Legal Affairs on 17-25. Unless there's any discussion, this will be by roll call, starting with Councilor David Cormier.
Yay.
Councilor Pauline Cormier.
Yay.
Councilor Arndinger.
Yay.
Councilor Angelini.
Yay.
Councilor Tossi.
Yay.
Councilor Shalfo Zephyr.
Yay.
Councilor Robbins.
Yay.
Councilor Frida.
Yay.
That should be recorded as yay. The second reading is granted by a vote of 9-0. Moving on to 18-25.
This is formally petition 18-25 and a second reading of an ordinance. The City of Leominster in the year 2024, an ordinance. Be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Leominster as follows. Amending Chapter 13 of the revised ordinances entitled Motor Vehicles and Traffic. Chapter 13, Section 13-47 of the revised ordinances entitled Same, at all times except Sunday, is hereby amended by deleting the following text. No person shall park a vehicle on the east side of Lancaster Street from Viscaloid Avenue south to Howard Street for any longer than 2 hours on any day except Sunday. Once again, Mr. President, it would be my recommendation that we adopt the second reading of this ordinance, and I would ask you to poll members of my committee.
Councilor Tosse?
I agree.
Councilor Pauline Cormier?
I agree.
The unanimous recommendation of Legal Affairs is to adopt the second reading. This will be by roll call, starting with Councilor David Cormier.
Yay.
Councilor Pauline Cormier.
Yay.
Councilor Arndinger.
Yay.
Councilor Angelini.
Yay.
Councilor Tosse.
Yay.
Councilor Shalfo Zephyr.
Yay.
Councilor Robbins.
Yay.
Councilor Frida.
Yay.
That should be recorded as yay. 18-25, second reading is granted by a vote of 9-0. Moving on to 19-25.
Thank you, Mr. President. Petition formally 19-25. This is the second reading of the ordinance. The City of Leominster in the year 2024, an ordinance. Be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Leominster as follows. Amending Chapter 13 of the revised ordinances entitled Motor Vehicles and Traffic. Chapter 13, Section 13-34 of the revised ordinances entitled No Parking on Certain Streets is hereby amended by inserting the following text. Lancaster Street, North Side, from in front of 488 Lancaster Street to and including the front of 516 Lancaster Street. And once again, Mr. President, it would be my recommendation that we adopt the second reading of this ordinance, and I would ask you to poll members of my committee.
Councilor Tosse?
I agree.
Councilor Pauline Cormier?
I agree.
The EMS recommendation of Legal Affairs is to adopt the second reading of petition formally 19-25. This will be by roll call, starting with Councilor David Cormier.
Yay.
Councilor Pauline Cormier.
Yay.
Councilor Arndinger.
Yay.
Councilor Angelini.
Yay.
Councilor Tosse.
Yay.
Councilor Shalfo Zephyr.
Yay.
Councilor Robbins.
Yay.
Councilor Frida.
Yay.
I'll be recorded as yay. The petition, or the second reading rather, is adopted by a vote of 9-0. Moving on to 20-25.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is formally petition 20-25, and this is the second reading of an ordinance as well. The City of Leominster in the year 2024, an ordinance. Be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Leominster as follows. Amending Chapter 13 of the revised ordinances entitled Motor Vehicles and Traffic. Chapter 13, Section 13-62.1 of the revised ordinances entitled Same, 2 hours, is hereby amended by deleting the following text. Pleasant Street, West Side, beginning at a point 55 feet north of Adams Street, northerly for a distance of 313 feet. And further amended by inserting in its place the following text. Pleasant Street, West Side, beginning at a point 90 feet north of Adams Street, northerly for a distance of 278 feet. Once again, Mr. President, it would be my recommendation that we adopt the second reading of this ordinance, and I would ask you to poll members of my committee.
Councilor Tosse?
I agree.
Councilor Pauline Cormier?
I agree.
You heard the unanimous recommendation of the Legal Affairs Committee to adopt the second reading of 20-25. This will be by roll call, starting with Councilor David Cormier.
Yay.
Councilor Pauline Cormier.
Yay.
Councilor Arndinger.
Yay.
Councilor Angelini.
Yay.
Councilor Tosse.
Yay.
Councilor Shalfo Zephyr.
Yay.
Councilor Robbins.
Yay.
Councilor Frida.
Yay.
And I'll be recorded as yay. The second reading is adopted by a vote of 9-0. Moving on to 21-25.
Thank you, Mr. President. 21-25 is the second reading of an ordinance. City of Leominster in the year 2024, an ordinance. Be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Leominster as follows. Amending Chapter 13 of the revised ordinances titled Motor Vehicles and Traffic. Chapter 13, Section 13-34 of the revised ordinances entitled No Parking on Certain Streets is hereby amended by inserting the following text. Pleasant Street, West Side, beginning at the intersection of Adams Street northerly for a distance of 90 feet. Mr. President, it would be my recommendation that we adopt the second reading of this ordinance, and I would ask you to poll members of my committee.
Counselor Tosse?
I agree.
Counselor Pauline Cormier?
I agree.
You heard the unanimous recommendation of Legal Affairs to adopt the second reading of formally 21-25. This will be by roll call, starting with Counselor David Cormier.
Yay.
Counselor Pauline Cormier.
Yay.
Counselor Arndinger.
Yay.
Counselor Angelini.
Yay.
Counselor Tosse.
Yay.
Counselor Shalfo Zephyr.
Yay.
Counselor Robbins.
Yay.
Counselor Frida.
Yay.
I'll be recorded as yay. The second reading is adopted by a vote of 9-0. Moving on to 22-25.
22, this is formally petition 22-25. It's a second reading of an ordinance. The City of Leominster in the year 2024, an ordinance. Be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Leominster as follows. Amending Chapter 13 of the revised ordinances entitled Motor Vehicles and Traffic. Chapter 13, Section 13-34 of the revised ordinances entitled No Parking on Certain Streets is hereby amended by inserting the following text. Pleasant Street, west side, from Adams Street to Pleasant Place. And lastly, Mr. President, it would be my recommendation that we adopt the second reading of this ordinance, and I would ask you to poll members of my committee.
And once again, Counselor Tosse.
I agree.
And Counselor Pauline Cormier.
I agree.
You've heard the unanimous recommendation of the Legal Affairs Committee to grant the second reading of petition formally 22-25. This will be by roll call, starting with
Yay.
Counselor David Cormier. Mercifully.
Yay.
Counselor Pauline Cormier.
Yay.
Counselor Arndinger.
Yay.
Counselor Angelini.
Yay.
Counselor Tosse.
Yay.
Counselor Shalfo Zephyr.
Yay.
Counselor Robbins.
Yay.
Counselor Frida.
Yay.
I have it recorded as yay. 22-25, ordinance, second reading is adopted by a vote of 9-0. Is there any additional old business? Counselor Shalfo Zephyr.
Yep, thank you very much. These, I think are under old business. There are a couple of important meetings coming up next week. The field behind the Leominster High School, which is a new athletic complex that has been in the works for a very long time, years. And the bids have finally come in. The construction is about to begin. And there is a meeting on Thursday, January 23rd at 5:30 p.m. At City Hall. I think it'll be in the
Room
auditorium.
10.
Pardon me?
The meeting is in room 10.
It is in room 10? Okay.
Yes.
It's in room 10. I know that notices have been mailed to a lot of the neighbors on Colonial Drive and Granite Street, but anybody interested in this should come to the meeting, because it's going to be in a multi-phase construction schedule, because the city wants to pay for it as it can. So the first phase is starting very soon. The second meeting is also very, very important. This is regarding the Bassett Street development project. Bassett Street runs parallel to the Lassie League fields. And there's a development that is proposed to go in there. You may all remember the Edward Street, Paper Street, that the City Council declared surplus. Well, this is being turned into a development of 9 homes that abut the Lassie League field and parking. And this meeting will be held next Wednesday, January 22nd, at 10:30 a.m. in room 10 in City Hall. So I would encourage anybody who is familiar with that area, if you live along Central Street, Bassett Street, if you utilize, the Lassie League fields and understand what that area is all about on a busy ball game day, you may want to come to that meeting. I think it's going to be important.
All set, Counselor Shalfo Zephyr?
A.M., thank you.
What time is it?
10:30 a.m., Pete. Sorry. 10:30 a.m.
Room 10.
Room 10 on Wednesday, January 22nd.
Just a correction, that hasn't been confirmed yet. And I know when I checked City Hall, that it was being used till noon time. So it might present a problem. So that's still kind of on hold. And I haven't heard back from Jamie Rowe or Anthony Cleaves. So checking with them. I didn't have a chance to get them today. But I just found out Friday that the city room, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, we could do it down here,
Yeah.
but we're still waiting for some of the other board members to see if they if they can make it. There were a couple of them that worked during the day, and they weren't sure they were going to make it, so.
Okay. Well, the time could change, but, you know,
We
I
can-
will certainly
we can
let
let
everybody
everybody
know.
know.
Yeah, we'll let the clerk know, and she can tell everybody. The rec department, I know, is coming, so she's all confirmed. But if the time changes or the location changes, we will certainly let everybody know.
Okay.
Thanks, Glenn.
All right, Councilor Pauline Cormier.
Just under old business, Mr. President, just to confirm that I spoke with Attorney Madouse's office today, and he is on board, so I just wanted to confirm that.
All right. Unless there's anything else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I didn't catch that.
Attorney Madaus has agreed to serve
Okay.
as our attorney. Councilor Robbins?
I just have a couple of things under the
Yeah.
community calendar.
Okay, sorry.
Just a quick reminder about the Fallbrook Building Committee informational meeting that's coming up January 30th at 6 p.m. at Fallbrook in the cafeteria. I mentioned it last time. I'll mention it again at our next meeting. There's going to be an update on the project, so make sure you attend if you're interested in where the development stands. And then Northwest has their pasta supper tomorrow night from 4:30 to 7 as well.
Very well. Anybody else? Councilor Frida?
Yeah, just through the chair, is it determined that they're looking to build a school and not, has that all been decided?
There'll be some news coming down soon on that front.
Yeah.
So, no, I just meant as
Yeah.
opposed to fixing it up. It's been
Oh.
determined that that's not the case.
I think I don't think well, look, let's put it this way.
It's cheaper to build a new school than it is to fix it.
up.
So I think that ship is essentially sailed.
Yeah. All right, motion to adjourn? Second, all in favor?
The Leominster City Council meeting is funded in part by DeCarolis Insurance Agency at www.decarolisInsuranceagency.com and by Avidia Bank at www.avidiabank.com.